My 35th birthday party. My husband handed me a gift box wrapped in silver paper. His mother raised her champagne glass. His father smirked. That moment should have been a warning. Looking back now, I can see all the signs I missed. But let me start from the beginning, from the moment everything started to unravel 4 weeks before that party. It was a Tuesday morning when I found the first text. David had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he showered, and it buzzed with a notification. I wouldn't normally look, but something about the preview message made my stomach drop. Can't wait to see you tonight, baby. Wear that blue dress I love. I stared at those words. Blue dress. I owned a blue dress. But David hadn't mentioned any plans for tonight. He told me last night he had a late meeting with potential investors for his real estate development company. My hands shook as I unlocked his phone. I knew his passcode because we'd always been open with each other. Or so I thought. The messages loaded, and my world tilted. Months of conversations with someone named Vanessa. Intimate messages, plans to meet, photos I couldn't unsee. I heard the shower turn off upstairs. I quickly took screenshots, sent them to my email, and deleted the sent messages from his phone. My architectural training had taught me to think systematically, to gather all the facts before making decisions. This wasn't any different. I needed evidence before I acted. Morning, beautiful, David said, coming into the kitchen in his suit. He kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. Big meeting today. Might be late again tonight. Good luck with the investors, I said, my voice somehow steady. Inside, I was screaming. He left. I called my office and told them I'd be working from home. Then I did what any woman in my position would do. I hired a private investigator. The PI, a former cop named Marcus, came to my house that afternoon. I showed him everything I'd found. He nodded, made notes, asked questions about David's schedule and habits. I'll have preliminary findings in a week, Marcus said. But Mrs. Chen, I need to prepare you. If what you're showing me is accurate, this might go deeper than just an affair. He was right. A week later, Marcus came back with a folder that changed everything. Photos of David with Vanessa, yes. Dinner dates, hotel meetings, the whole sordid cliché. But that wasn't the worst part. Your husband has been systematically moving money out of your joint accounts, Marcus explained, spreading bank statements across my dining table. Small amounts each time, always below the notification threshold you both set up. It adds up to about $80,000 over the past 6 months. My stomach lurched. Where did it go? An account in his name only. But there's more. Marcus pulled out another set of documents. He's been meeting with a lawyer. Not a divorce lawyer. A business lawyer. They've been drafting papers to transfer ownership of your architecture firm to his company. I built that firm from nothing. 10 years of 70-hour weeks, missed holidays, countless sacrifices. It was worth over $2 million now. And he wanted to steal it. How would he even do that? I asked, though I was afraid I knew the answer. The papers are disguised as a business partnership agreement. If you signed them without reading carefully, you'd be signing over controlling interest to his real estate company. He'd effectively own your firm. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The affair was devastating enough. But this was calculated theft. There's one more thing, Marcus said quietly. I've been watching his family too, as you requested. They're all in on it. I have recordings of his mother and father discussing the plan at their country club. His father specifically mentioned your 35th birthday party as the perfect opportunity to get you to sign the papers. My birthday party? I whispered. Apparently they're planning to make it a big celebration. Lots of people, champagne, emotions running high. David's going to present the papers as a romantic gesture. A way to merge your lives professionally as well as personally. His mother said, and I quote, "She'll be too touched to read the fine print." I sat there in my dining room, looking at evidence of the most comprehensive betrayal I could imagine. My husband, his family, all conspiring to take everything I'd worked for. But underneath the hurt, something else was growing. Anger. Cold, calculated fury. Marcus, I said slowly, I need you to keep investigating. I need to know everything. Every account, every meeting, every detail of their plan. He smiled slightly. I was hoping you'd say that. Over the next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. By day, I was the same Sarah. I smiled at David over breakfast, kissed him goodbye, acted like nothing was wrong. It was the hardest performance of my life. By night, I was planning. I moved my inheritance from my grandmother, nearly $500,000, to a separate account David didn't know about. I documented every suspicious transaction from our joint accounts. I met with my own lawyer, a shark named Patricia who specialized in business fraud cases. This is criminal, Patricia said, reviewing the evidence. Theft, fraud, potentially embezzlement, depending on how he's moving the money. You could have him arrested. Not yet, I said. I want to do this right. I want him to incriminate himself completely. It was during my second week of planning that something unexpected happened. I met Daniel. I was at my grandmother's grave, updating her on everything. I know it sounds strange, but talking to her always helped me think clearly. She'd been the one who encouraged me to start my architecture firm, who'd given me the seed money to get started. "Excuse me," a voice said behind me. "Are you Sarah Chen?" I turned. A man about my age stood there, holding flowers. He had kind eyes and an uncertain smile. "Yes," I said cautiously. "Do I know you?" "I'm Daniel. Daniel Chen. David's cousin." I stiffened. Another Chen family member. Was he here to spy on me? Daniel must have seen my expression because he quickly added, "I know what you're thinking. But I'm not like them. They disowned me 3 years ago when I refused to join the family business and reported my father for tax fraud instead. I'm a forensic accountant now." "Why are you here?" I asked, still wary. "Because I know what they're planning. David's mother called me last week, drunk, bragging about their scheme. She didn't know I'd want to help you, not them." He looked at the grave. "I remember your grandmother. She was kind to me when I was a kid. She deserved better than the Chen family gave her." I studied his face. Something in my gut told me he was telling the truth. "Can you help me?" I asked quietly. "That's why I'm here." Over the next week, Daniel became my secret weapon. As a forensic accountant, he knew exactly how to trace David's money movements, how to document everything in a way that would hold up in court. He found things even Marcus had missed. "Your husband is even worse than you thought," Daniel said, spreading spreadsheets across his apartment dining table. "He's not just stealing from you. He's been using your firm's credit to fund his real estate deals, then hiding the debt in subsidiary accounts. If this continues, your company will be bankrupt within a year while his thrives." I felt sick. "Can we stop it?" "We can do better than stop it. We can reverse it. But we need to wait until after he makes his move at the party. If he actually gets you to sign those papers, even under false pretenses, it becomes attempted fraud with clear intent. The charges multiply." It was risky. But I trusted Daniel. Unlike his cousin, he'd proven himself trustworthy. 3 weeks into my investigation, I discovered something else. Something that changed everything in a different way. I'd been feeling tired, nauseous. I'd assumed it was stress. But when the symptoms persisted, I took a pregnancy test. Positive. I sat on my bathroom floor, staring at those 2 lines, and cried. I'd always wanted children. David and I had talked about starting a family after my firm stabilized. But this? Now? With everything falling apart? I called Patricia immediately. "How does this change things legally?" I asked. "It strengthens your position," she said bluntly. "If you're carrying his child, it makes his abandonment and financial fraud even more heinous. Family courts don't look kindly on men who try to bankrupt the mother of their children." I placed my hand on my stomach. This baby didn't ask to be born into this mess, but I'd be damned if David Chen would hurt my child the way he'd hurt me. That's when I decided. I wasn't just going to protect myself. I was going to win completely. The night before my birthday party, I couldn't sleep. Everything was in place. Daniel had prepared a complete financial forensic report. Patricia had drafted divorce papers and fraud complaints. Marcus had surveillance footage and recordings. All the evidence was documented, copied, and stored in multiple secure locations. Tomorrow, David would make his move. And I'd be ready. The party was at a private villa David had rented in the Hamptons. He'd invited everyone, our friends, colleagues, his entire family. It was excessive, lavish, exactly the kind of show the Chens loved to put on. I wore a cream silk dress and smiled as guests arrived. David's mother, Linda, kissed both my cheeks with fake warmth. His father, Robert, shook my hand with that same smirk I'd seen before. Such a special day, Linda cooed. We have such a wonderful surprise for you. I bet you do, I thought. But I smiled and thanked her. The party was beautiful, I had to admit. String lights in the garden, a live band, catered food that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. David played the perfect husband, his arm around my waist, introducing me to his business associates as his brilliant architect wife. Every touch made my skin crawl. But I maintained my mask. Finally, as the sun began to set, David called for everyone's attention. He stood on the villa's terrace, champagne glass raised. Everyone, thank you for coming to celebrate my incredible wife's 35th birthday, he began. The crowd quieted. Sarah, you are the most amazing woman I've ever known. Brilliant, beautiful, and the love of my life. I wanted to vomit. Instead, I smiled. To celebrate this milestone, and to celebrate our partnership, I have a very special gift. He pulled out a silver-wrapped box. The same box from my vision. Come here, darling. I walked up to the terrace. Behind me, I could see Linda and Robert exchanging satisfied glances. They thought they'd won. I opened the box. Inside was a leather portfolio. I pulled it out and opened it to reveal professional documents. These papers, David announced to the crowd, represent the merger of our two companies, a joining of our professional lives to match our personal ones. Sarah, my love, will you sign these and make us true partners in every way? The crowd awed. Some people wiped tears from their eyes. It looked so romantic. I looked at the papers. Just as Marcus and Daniel had predicted, transfer of controlling interest, disguised as a partnership. In reality, theft. I looked up at David. At his confident smile. At his parents behind him, barely containing their glee. At the guests who had no idea what was really happening. Then I smiled. This is incredibly thoughtful, David, I said loudly, clearly. But before I sign, I have an announcement of my own. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the villa's speaker system that had been playing background music. You see, about 4 weeks ago, I found some interesting text messages on your phone. So I hired a private investigator. David's smile faltered. Sarah, what are you? Let me finish, darling, I said, my voice sweet but cold. Marcus, my PI, discovered you've been having an affair with Vanessa Rodriguez for 6 months. He also discovered you've been stealing from our joint accounts. $80,000 to be exact. The crowd gasped. David's face went white. That's not, you can't. Oh, but I can. And I did. I also discovered, with the help of your cousin Daniel, that you've been using my company's credit to fund your failing real estate deals. Which means my firm is carrying about $300,000 in hidden debt that should be yours. Daniel stepped forward from the crowd, holding a folder. It's all documented, he said calmly. Linda tried to intervene. This is absurd. Sarah, you're being hysterical. I'm being thorough, I corrected. Because I also have recordings of you and Robert discussing this entire scheme at your country club. Specifically, your plan to get me to sign away my company tonight, at my own birthday party. While I was too touched to read the fine print, I played the recording. Linda and Robert's voices filled the air, crystal clear, discussing every detail of the plan. The crowd was silent. Stunned. Some people were recording on their phones. Good. I wanted witnesses. David lunged for the papers, but I pulled them back. These papers that you disguised as a romantic partnership agreement? They're attempted fraud. My lawyer has copies. Along with divorce papers that I'll be filing Monday morning. You can't do this to me, David hissed, all pretense of charm gone. I'll fight you. I'll take everything. With what? I asked calmly. The money you stole? The assets you tried to hide. Oh, and David, there's one more thing. I placed my hand on my stomach. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. Which means when family court reviews your case, they'll see a man who tried to financially destroy the mother of his child. How do you think that will play out? The baby was actually David's, conceived before I discovered the affair. But the timing was perfect. It gave me leverage and protection. Linda was crying. Robert looked apoplectic. David just stood there, destroyed. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to return every penny you stole. You're going to sign documents absolving my company of the debt you fraudulently created. You're going to agree to a clean divorce with fair child support. And if you fight me on any of this, I go to the district attorney with evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and theft. "You vindictive bitch," Robert spat. "No," I said quietly. "I'm a woman who built something from nothing, and I'm protecting it. There's a difference." I looked at the crowd. At the shocked faces. At the phone still recording. "I'm sorry to ruin the party," I said. "But I think it's important that everyone knows who they're doing business with. David Chen is a thief and a liar. His family are conspirators. Anyone considering investing with them might want to reconsider." I picked up my champagne glass. "To honesty," I said, "and to women who refuse to be victims." A few people in the crowd, mostly women, raised their glasses. Then a few more. Then most of the room. I walked off that terrace with my head high. Daniel followed me. So did Patricia, who'd been waiting in the crowd. So did Marcus. "That," Patricia said, grinning, "was the most satisfying thing I've ever witnessed." The next week was a blur of legal proceedings. David tried to fight at first, but once he realized how much evidence I had, how many witnesses had recorded his humiliation, he folded. His lawyer advised him to settle before criminal charges were filed. He returned the money, signed the divorce papers, agreed to child support and supervised visitation once the baby was born. His real estate company collapsed when word spread about the fraud. Investors pulled out. Partners distanced themselves. Within a month, David Chen went from wealthy developer to unemployed and radioactive in the business world. Linda and Robert tried to maintain their social standing, but the country club recordings had been leaked. They found themselves suddenly uninvited to events, dropped from boards, shunned by the same people who'd once courted their favor. As for me, I'm 7 months pregnant now. My architecture firm is thriving. Without David's secret debt dragging it down. We've actually expanded. I hired 3 new architects and took on 2 major civic projects. Daniel became one of my closest friends. He's going to be the baby's godfather. We laugh sometimes about how we're the only good ones to come out of the Chen family line. I'm not going to lie and say it was easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep. Moments where I mourned the life I thought I had. Days where the betrayal felt so heavy I could barely breathe. But I also found something I didn't expect. Strength. The knowledge that I could face the worst betrayal imaginable and not just survive, but prevail. My daughter, yes, it's a girl, will be born into a different world than the one I almost lost. She'll have a mother who owns her own successful company. A mother who didn't let anyone take what she built. A mother who chose justice over victimhood. And someday, when she's old enough, I'll tell her this story. Not as a tale of revenge, but as a lesson about the importance of documentation, trusting your instincts and fighting for what's yours. But I'll also tell her about the champagne toast. About standing on that terrace, looking at the man who tried to destroy me, and taking back my power. Because that moment, when I played those recordings and watched his face crumble, when I felt the baby move inside me and knew I was fighting for both of us, that was the moment I stopped being a victim and became a survivor. That was the moment everything changed. My 35th birthday party. My husband handed me papers to steal my company. I handed him divorce papers and fraud charges instead. His parents raised their glasses to my humiliation. I raised mine to their downfall. And I've been raising it ever since.